reporter tells me Anna's mother and other relatives still live in Serbia. She's been in touch with Anna's best friend in the country, who is shocked by her disappearance and by her husband's arrest. That friend tells the reporter Anna only ever spoke very highly of her husband and of her life here in America.
This is a big story here because a woman from Serbia goes to America, living American dream, and after that she disappeared. She have a husband, but husband is very mystery because he was arrested.
Before Brian Walsh's arrest, this was the scene at his home. Take a look. State and local police spent hours searching the house yesterday, carrying out evidence and taking photographs. We were here as the family's 3 children, all younger than 6, were driven away in a Volvo SUV. Sources tell us those 3 young boys are now in state custody. Now their father is behind bars, accused of misleading investigators. But when Brian Walsh is arraigned today, it won't be his first time in front of a judge. Brian pleaded guilty in federal court 2 years ago after prosecutors say he took 2 Andy Warhol paintings from a friend in South Korea, put the authentic art for sale on eBay, then delivered fake paintings to the buyer. Walsh hasn't been sentenced in that case yet, but Cohasset's police chief says this situation is not related to his wife's disappearance.
The Norfolk County DA said investigators have wrapped their search of the home Walsh shared with her husband and young boys. This investigation, which started in Cohasset, has spread to include an incinerator facility in West Wareham and the North Shore towns of Swampscott and Peabody. Our team has also learned a bloody rug found could be central to the case.
Yeah, we have live team coverage tonight. Bob Ward at the Cohasset home when police pulled away tonight. Lisa Pappas is speaking with the art dealer Brian Walsh, scammed in a federal case. But we begin with investigative reporter Ted Daniel. He is live in Swampscott, where, Ted, you learned about a new search warrant tonight.
Mark, good evening. We are outside the apartment complex where Brian Walsh's mother lives. A source tells me that a new search warrant was issued for that apartment today, and investigators could return here at any time. We are on the lookout. I've learned at least 7 search warrants have been issued since Anna Walsh disappeared about the first of the year, and the evidence is piling up. We know police removed a dumpster from this complex yesterday, and they searched through piles of trash at a garbage dump in Peabody. The Norfolk DA confirms items of evidence were recovered at the garbage dump, and we now know what some of those items are. Multiple sources tell 25 Investigates a hacksaw and a blood-soaked rug were bagged as evidence. Our sources say the rug appeared to have human tissue on it. I'm told the rug has been sent to the medical examiner's office, not the state crime lab. The medical examiner only deals with death investigations. If police thought Anna Walsh was still alive, it would be strange to involve the medical examiner in this case. I talked with Phil Tracy, a former prosecutor turned defense lawyer, about what appears to be the worst case scenario.
Phil, is it possible to bring a murder charge here without a body?
Absolutely. Circumstantial evidence can be used through DNA. You'll be able to identify that piece of the body, that piece of tissue or whatever.
It's clear that police believe Brian Walsh discarded evidence in his travels after his wife Anna's disappearance. 2 sources tell me police are concerned that some of those items may have already been incinerated. There's a trash shredding and burning facility in Wareham called CMAS. It takes trash from all over Greater Boston and turns it into energy. A spokesperson for that facility confirms they are cooperating with this investigation. And if evidence was incinerated, it could be lost forever. Right now, Walsh is only charged with misleading investigators. Sources are telling me that the DA is considering upgraded charges in this case, but police have been asked to exhaust all resources and collect as much evidence as they can first.
Court records that a GPS tracker and cell phone data raised questions about Brian Walsh's whereabouts in the days after Anna was last seen. Anchor and investigative reporter Carrie Kavanaugh continues our team coverage now, piecing together where investigators believe he was and what he was doing New Year's week.
Brian Walsh reported his wife missing to police Wednesday, January 4th, the same day as Anna Walsh's employer. Walsh allegedly told investigators that on New Year's Day he got up around 7 a.m. He claims around then his wife Anna kissed him goodbye and headed to Logan Airport for her flight to D.C. But according to investigators from there, his stories weren't adding up. Due to Brian Walshe's house arrest and a GPS tracker from another criminal case, investigators say he requested various leaves for the week of January 1st during the morning and afternoon hours to drop and pick up his kids from school. Investigators say his cell phone was detected in Brockton and Abington during that week, but he had not obtained permission to be in either town. On Sunday, January 1st, they say Walsh, who lives in Cohasset, requested travel between 3 and 9 p.m. to take his mom back to her Swampscott home, but he claimed he got lost and took an unusual route. On Monday, January 2nd, there was no school because of the holiday, but investigators say Walsh was seen on video at the Home Depot in Rockland wearing a black surgical mask and blue surgical gloves, making a cash transaction. We now know he purchased hundreds of dollars in cleaning supplies. He also requested time to go shopping midday on January 4th, but police didn't specify his alleged whereabouts on that day, other than when they questioned him at home that night. We know police have been searching the trail that trash would have taken from Swampscott dumpsters to a trash site in Peabody, locating key evidence tied to the disappearance of Anna Walsh.
Days after Anna has gone missing and her husband Brian remains in custody this morning, police still remain at their house here in Cohasset securing this home. And so even though Brian Walsh was under federal house arrest for a fraud case shortly after Anna went missing, the investigation revealed that he traveled up and down the north and south shores. Now, 25 investigators confirmed a Scituate-based trash hauler had 2 of Brian Walsh's trailers impounded by police over the weekend. Now, the trailers were at the Cohasset transfer station and may still have contents from before the time that Anna went missing. Brian was on house arrest after pleading guilty in 2018 for selling 2 fake Andy Warhol paintings for $80,000. During a federal court hearing last June, Anna wrote a letter to the judge to show support for her husband ahead of his sentencing while he had been on home confinement. Anna wrote how Brian helped take care of their 3 young boys and her mother after she suffered a brain aneurysm, all while Anna spent weekdays in D.C. for her job. Anna wrote to the judge, Brian has been working consistently on breaking the past bad habits of his family, and we're all looking forward to the new chapter of his life. Now, 25 Investigates has learned that federal authorities were actually at Brian's arraignment yesterday in Quincy, and so should Brian be able to post that $500,000 bail, we've learned that federal authorities can quickly grab him and place him back in custody.
Well, according to letters written by both Brian's mother and his wife Anna, they didn't have a good relationship. Anna Walsh blames his parents for his troubled upbringing. More than a dozen character letters were sent to a federal judge in September 2021 on behalf of Brian Walsh, all showing support for him ahead of his sentencing after he was charged with selling 2 fake Andy Warhol paintings for $80 grand. My son is the only reason I get up in the morning, Brian's mother Diana Walsh wrote in her letter to the judge, urging the court to not give him jail time. She detailed in her 4-page letter how much she relies on Brian after multiple lung cancer surgeries and other health issues. Diana says her son brings her to all of her appointments. She wrote, unfortunately, I do not have a good relationship with my daughter-in-law, perhaps due to cultural differences. Therefore, my son is the one and only constant in my life, taking care of me and ensuring I have some joy by seeing my grandchildren. Court documents from the sentencing memorandum show Brian Walsh struggled with mental illness from age 7 with several traumatic experiences. His family wrote he turned his life around following this arrest after going through programs like the Boston Breakthrough Academy in 2020. Brian's wife, Anna Walsh, who's now missing, also wrote a letter supporting her husband. She said Brian has been deeply affected by his childhood and relationship with his parents. He was taught to lie and hide. He was told that he was a loser, that his parents should not have had him, that he had no chances of making anything of himself in life, and that he was a lost cause. Anna also wrote how she's able to do her job while Brian takes care of their 3 young boys who love and adore him. Brian's mother, Diana, also wrote, he will never put us through such a trauma again. When my daughter-in-law told me Brian was arrested, my entire system went into shock. And Brian Walsh has yet to be sentenced in that federal case. Ever since those letters were submitted to that federal judge, Brian Walsh was on house arrest up until he was taken to jail, of course, this week in connection to the disappearance of his wife.
This is the condo. It's a 1-bedroom on Revere Street, just a few blocks from the beach. The sale of the property was recorded on December 29th by the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds. Authorities say Anna Walsh went missing from her home in Cohasset around the first of the year.
She actually had a plane ticket for January 3rd, which she did not use, and did not show up at the airport, nor her D.C. job or her apartment in D.C.
The condo was purchased in Anna's name in January 2020 for $137,000. Our real estate listing says it sold in 8 days. The sale price, $220,000. Closing documents obtained by 25 Investigates show Anna's husband Brian was involved in the sale. The documents list Brian Walsh as the grantor's or seller's spouse. His signature and a photocopy of his driver's license are included in the binder. He's signer number 2, right under Anna. In Massachusetts, it's routine for both a husband and a wife to take part in a property sale, even if the property is not in both of their names. The proceeds from the sale, about $80,000. As we've been reporting, court documents from Brian Walsh's federal art fraud case indicate he was having financial difficulties and on the hook for more than $300,000 in restitution.
I spoke to an individual involved in the real estate transaction. He tells me he contacted state police and shared all the details.
We have team coverage for you tonight, starting with Boston 25 News reporter Bob Ward in Cohasset. And Bob, you just learned police have a key new piece of evidence.
Well, it's really interesting on the investigative front. It's been kind of slow, right? But state police are still gathering evidence. They're waiting for test results to come back from the crime lab before they take the next step. But we have confirmed that state police are now in possession of video surveillance of Brian Walsh outside a dumpster in Swampscott near a liquor store, near a Whole Foods. That's the area where he said he was on January 1st, which is the day that Anna Walsh disappeared. So very interesting development there about the existence of this video surveillance of Brian Walsh near that dumpster. Meanwhile, out here in Cohasset, where Brian and Anna Walsh lived, people here in this town are trying to come to terms with this disturbing case.
The cozy South Shore town of Cohasset is the kind of place outsiders might consider a New England seaside town would look like. But the mystery over Anna Walsh's disappearance and the arrest of her admitted conman husband Brian Walsh on a charge of lying to investigators is giving outsiders a different glimpse of Cohasset, and people here don't like it.
Totally unexpected. You know, I've been here my entire life, 52 years, and haven't seen anything like this before, so it's quite a shock.
For nearly a full week, the Massachusetts State Police have been a constant, unsettling presence in Cohasset. They recently wrapped up a search of the family's rented home on Chief Justice Cushing Highway, as well as a massive search of woods in and around town. And then there was the fire Friday at the Walsh's previous home on Jerusalem Road that authorities say is not related to Anna's disappearance. All of it a lot to process for this town of less than 9,000 residents.
It leaves you speechless, really. I can't wrap my brain around it.
At the heart of this is Anna Walsh herself. She's still missing. And after a week of heart-stopping headlines about hacksaws, transfer stations, internet searches, and a husband held on high bail, people here are unnerved and thinking about the secrets their neighbors keep.
It wasn't about the money for her, I don't think, because she was the breadwinner. But there are people, I guess, you never know what your next-door neighbor is capable of.
Meanwhile, across the ocean in Anna's native country of Serbia, concern grows. The Serbian consulate writing, "We had a pleasure of meeting Anna in person, and we remember her as a lovely lady. Her disappearance has been a cause of a great concern for the Serbian community in the U.S. as well as for people back home."
Now, there's one more member of the Walsh family that we have not heard about, and that is the family dog. Brian and Anna Walsh own a purebred German Shepherd. That dog is now homeless. Now, there is kind of a happy ending, I guess you could call it, to the story, and that is that dog has been sent to the animal control shelter over in Braintree and is now in foster care. And the foster parents are a state police trooper who is not connected to this case and his family. So they're taking care of that dog at night. I'm told the dog has a great demeanor, answers commands in German, and the troopers and the detectives that were working this case over the weekend, they just kind of fell in love with the dog. dog, and they wanted to make sure that the Walsh dog was taken care of. So at least a moment of a bright spot, I guess you would say, in this tragedy that's been unfolding here in Cohasset, that the family dog at least is being taken care of.
Vanessa, they say their biggest concern is that Anna's 3 kids could be separated as soon as tomorrow, on top of what these 3 brothers have already been through over the last 11 days.
Honestly, it's a horrible movie that we're watching and that we're in real life.
Natasha Skye and Pamela Barbi are desperate for answers in Anna Walsh's disappearance, and the one way they feel they can help involves their friend's 3 young boys who were placed in DCF custody on Sunday following their father Brian's arrest.
You know, you've got 3 boys under 6 years old dealing with what could be an extreme trauma. You don't know what they heard that night, what they saw that night, God knows what they're in for.
These 2 friends say they have reason to believe that the 3 boys could be placed in foster care any day now and potentially be split up.
We want to get those boys together to pass to the families who are qualified, who are willing to adopt them, who will take care of them, but together, not separately.
Skye is the founder of the Skye International Center, a business and social network for international professionals that Anna was a part of. She says 2 families involved in the nonprofit who are close with Anna are going through the court process to appeal for custody of the 3 children.
There are 2 families who had play dates over and over already, international people 2 families who are willing to adopt. They've been in touch.
Her close-knit friends are all trying to help every way that they can and take the children in. And that's why we were surprised to hear that they went under state custody and that they would be separated.
They say Brian Walsh's mother, the boys' one local adult relative, had been caring for the kids and the days after their mother was reported missing before the children were taken into state custody. And Skye is using her nonprofit organization that she runs out of her home here in Newton to raise funds for the Walsh children and also to fly Anna's mother from Serbia here to Massachusetts. We reached out to DCF tonight to ask about the plea regarding the Walsh children. A spokesperson would only tell us that the children remain in DCF custody tonight and that the state cannot comment any further. Mark, as another day passes without knowing what happened to Anna Walsh, a man who has known Brian Walsh since he was just a little boy attending private school here in Boston is reflecting on what he calls a pattern of calculating and deceitful behavior. He says that resulted in Brian being estranged from his father, who was a regarded neurologist here at Brigham and Women's Hospital. That friend we spoke with a short time ago alleges that Brian conned his father Thomas out of hundreds of thousands of dollars, then disappeared from his father's life. When Father Thomas Walsh died in 2018, Brian, his only child, was not included in the will. That's according to court documents. Those documents we obtained allege that Brian destroyed the will and tried to take control of his father's estate. We distorted the voice of that family friend we talked with tonight to protect his identity. He says he's deeply disappointed in Brian Walsh. He has been ever since all of that happened, but still cannot wrap his mind around the developments surrounding Anna Walsh's disappearance and the arrest of her husband, Brian.
As Brian got older, he sort of lost touch with how people make it in the world and just assumed a mantle of entitlement. There were signs he was a con artist. There was more than signs. There was ample examples. But there was never a mean streak. There was never even an angry stare. There are violent criminals and there are swindlers and grifters, or all kinds of criminals, and they're usually not blended. So I was shocked when I heard it. All the people that I know that know Brian, because Brian was a regular fixture in his father's homes, are equally shocked. No one said it was just a matter of time. Everyone is shocked.
And despite that shock you just heard that friend describe, court documents say another family friend who provided a statement to the courts described Brian Walsh as not only a sociopath, but also a physically violent and angry person. Still a lot of questions here.